Hey, it's Jean, and if we have much in common, it's likely that you have a bunch of clothes that fit you the way that you fit in high school, which is to say, they don't fit you. Now, as most people haven't, I haven't changed sizes since the 5th grade, you know. So I'm still wearing clothes that I had in 5th grade, and it's just like my body is very tucked away in here, waiting to be released like a tax return. When you have clothes that are that ill-fitted to your needs, there are things you can actually do. Today we are going to be making some DIY crop tops out of this. You know, you can always make something good out of a bad situation. Just like that person who says Donald Trump isn't that bad, there's positives, at least he's honest. Isn't that great, guys? Always an optimistic spin, just like an optimistic spin on this t-shirt. This is actually something that's fairly simple to do. You just need 2 ingredients. You need the shirt you're going to cut away at, and you need the tool to cut it with. What you're cutting is all of the civil rights of American citizens, and the scissors are all the tools you're cutting it with, like the White House staff, that bunch of tools. What I did earlier is I stood in front of a mirror and I marked down some different places where I thought I might like to cut the shirt. Originally, I put it a little higher, but because my promises are sometimes too ambitious and I can't do the things that I actually said, and maybe I want to stop and actually think about the consequences of my actions, I made a second mark that's a little bit lower so that I can go back down later, in case what I decided I wanted to do and what everyone thought I should do actually turned out to be a stupid thing to do, kind of like building a wall. Every snip that you make on this t-shirt represents a year cut off of the lifespans of our children and grandchildren as a result of environmental policy that focuses on the wants of big business. Here we have the Dakota Access Pipeline. Here's the Keystone Pipeline. That feels great. How about a lesser known pipeline, like the Kinder Morgan Pipeline? That's running through rural Kentucky, where people often feel like they don't have the education or the skills necessary to combat anything being done to them and their health and safety. Because remember, you can target working class white people in your campaign with racist promises, but when it comes to their actual needs, there's no need to help them. Oh look, here's the last of the bees. Good thing that we're deregulating pesticides. So now you have a shirt that probably needs some refining. See, we've got kind of a rough edge here, and the line isn't perfectly straight the way that Mike Pence wants us all to be. You don't have to be too worried, of course, about having an edge that's a little bit rough, because you know what else was rough around the edges? Trump care. You can just pretend as you're cutting that you're cutting off 24 million Americans from their needed health insurance. And then you can tell yourself that, hey, no one dies from a lack of access to health care. You have to be careful when you're cutting because not everything can be cut. For example, your ties to business and your ties to Russia, you don't want to cut those. You just want to hide them by firing the director of the FBI. The edge, as you can see, is still a little bit rough, so there's a chance I'm going to have to go back in and stitch this, just like the 46th president is going to have to come back and stitch our country together. You see there's a bit of a gap between how high I cut the front part of the shirt and how high I cut this part of the shirt. This represents the wage gap, which isn't real anyway. Alright, you hear that sound in the background? That is my neighbor, actually. He sure is producing a lot of white noise. I can't put my finger on it, but it kind of seems like we have another man in this country who's just creating a lot of white noise, emphasis on the white. I'm really blown out right now, just to symbolize the whitewashing of the American dream. As I'm finishing this up along the bottom here, I'm doing the last few snips, and it's kind of like how 45 is doing the last few snips to get rid of literally every staff member that Obama appointed and replace them with people with no qualifications but who have bank accounts in the trillions. It's kind of like taking this raggedy old t-shirt that represents Obama and turning it into something prettier, but maybe not as functional, and also not prettier. Oh wow, what am I cutting away at here? It's all of the sanctuary cities in the state of Texas. We don't need those. As you may have noticed, I still have not reached this line here. This is where I originally proposed to put all of my stuff, but after I was elected to cut this shirt, I realized it just wasn't feasible. So now I'm gonna try this on for size, and if anyone tells me it looks anything other than perfect, I'll fire them. So now you have a finished product. I'm gonna model it real quick. And don't worry, if you still don't like the edge on it, what you can do is you can ask your very attractive daughter Ivanka, who you would date if she wasn't your daughter, and you can have her smooth out all of the edges so that your work looks clean, classy, and dignified, despite its origins and intentions. With that, you now have a great new crop top. What a great look for the summer of 2017. I hope you enjoyed this video, that it was helpful for you. I have so much respect for our president. He's doing such a great job, and everyone who says that I shouldn't criticize him and let him have time to really get started, because after all it's only been about, 3 or 4 months, you're right. Because even from things that seem like they won't work, you get a great product sometimes, right? 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 Subscribe. And you might be wondering, okay, well, now what do I do with all of my excess? Well, that's easy. You can just go to the garbage and let it trickle down.